Hello, weirdos. It is Riot. I am here once again with my good friend, Mr. VJ Morgan White, the
Hello.
analog assassin, as we've called him before. And our special guest today, as I told you, I'd bring some more extra guests in on our way to Terriblefest. We have film maestro, Mr. Steve Kostanski.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, welcome.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I've known Steve for a while on and off. The last couple times I think I saw you was probably like in passing at Fan Expo. But I have this one memory where you were at a Halloween party, and in theory you were there because you had dressed yourself up in the. This is going back quite a few years. You dressed yourself up in the BioCop costume, and you couldn't move. You basically mummified yourself in there and just sat in the corner the whole time and could barely talk.
Yeah, I was miserable. I remember riding the subway dressed like that.
Oh, God.
And being like, oh, this is awful. Why did I do this? And yeah, after that, I learned like Halloween, all-encompassing Halloween costumes that are restrictive in the way that like prosthetics are restrictive isn't conducive to like drinking and socializing with your friends. Those things just don't go together. So that's kind of why I just gave up on Halloween costumes at a certain point, because I was like, I know that being trapped in the shit that I make is not fun. So why would I?
Why would you do it?
I'd rather subject paid actors to that than do it myself. So
I mean, yeah, they're getting paid for it, so it's on.
Yeah,
them,
exactly.
Right? Yeah,
so they got to suck it up and just eat it.
The magic of doing everything with so much prosthetics on there. There's always that, you know, all the Star Trek stories of just Worf saying, even just for this headpiece, it took him 6 hours every morning to do that. He'd be there before everybody else. You first think, oh, well, it's relaxing. You're just sitting there. What's the point? Why were you complaining? But then you think, wait, hours. Like
hours. Also, you're being like poked and prodded the whole time, right? So
bad idea. Doing your own dental work.
That's it's hard to be relaxed when somebody's like putting a Q-tip like right in your tear duct. So yeah, I get it. I always say that there's like, you basically have like a window of 3 days where day one, the first day somebody gets into the prosthetics of whatever character they're playing on your show. Day one is exciting and fun, and they're very patient and they're all curious about the process. Then day two, they're kind of indifferent. They're like, oh, the magic is gone. I'm not into this. And then day three, they hate it. And that's been the life cycle of basically every creature I've done up to this point. It was part of the reason why I like tried to give myself a break and shifted to puppets for Frankie, because I was like, well, puppets can't complain.
but puppeteers can.
Yeah, puppeteers can complain, and then when I'm also doing a bunch of the puppeteering, like, yeah, I have no one to complain to but myself. It's my own fault. But yeah, I wanted to get away from having to glue around people's eyes and the misery that comes with that. I know that Matt Ninneber on PG had a hell of a time getting in and out of that suit every day. So yeah, I just wanted to.
Because it's all
give everyone a break,
like head to toe. So
yeah, it was all encompassing.
Though.
Yeah, I mean it all looks cool, but it's like it's still miserable. It's just basically a death trap.
What did they say? You got to suffer for your art, right? So,
and I'm doing lots of that, and I'm subjecting lots of people to suffering.
And that's the difference again when you're talking about being a paid actor. Like, we bringing you on here, and I'm going to show you a couple of clips and some trailers for some things that we're playing at Terriblefest this month. A lot of the stuff that's at Terriblefest is people who they did this for themselves, and that's what I want to see as the experiment. They made this with friends. You've done that too. I mean, you started off that way. The Astron 5 stuff. Deep down, I mean, kind of Manborg is really still that. Like, how much did you think Manborg was gonna take you into that direction of, oh, now I'm just going to be my own boss?
No, my intention with Manborg was just 100% like, I'm making this movie because I want to make it. I had no thought towards like, oh, this will get distributed. I was like, oh, maybe I'll play a couple festivals and it'll like, you know, maybe some people will see and be like, oh, that was fun. But like, I didn't consider it even a real movie. I was just like, this is just like a video project that I'm making that just happens to be almost feature length. I mean,
'Cause you were already
technically,
essentially working at that point. Like you were
yeah,
already doing a lot of like for professional projects for makeup and effects, but you
yeah,
weren't holding and directing the camera yet until then.
yeah. I mean, all that was happening kind of in tandem. Like my professional career in prosthetics was like really kicking into high gear when I was in post production on Manborg. Like Manborg, I started shooting, was it 2009? It was like I started it before we started shooting Father's Day. Like it was 3 years total to get Manborg out the door. So by the end of it, yeah, my career had definitely like gone up a few notches since starting that project. So yeah, I always just kind of consider it a weird video oddity more than a movie, and it technically isn't even my first feature. Like nobody except a select few at that one Winnipeg screening have seen my first feature, Love Journey, which is an action comedy
Oh.
about a guy fighting his way through visual manifestations of all of his emotions. So it's really just set piece after set piece of him fighting. Like he like fights a couple mimes at one point. He fights some scarecrows.
You haven't even
A
like
werewolf.
stuck that into some weird extra feature somewhere. Like that's not
No, I
available anywhere.
remember like Pete and Justin wanted to screen it at one point, and I like
Yeah.
almost let them. And then
That's the only reason I know of it because
then I
them.
then I kind of bitched out at the last second and was like, I just like
Aw.
I don't know. I'm very self conscious about. I mean, I'm self conscious even about my current stuff, but like everything like Manborg back like stresses me out to watch with an audience, and Love Journey especially because it's like too long. It's like all the problems of a movie, like a first time feature, like made by somebody who doesn't really know how they're making movies yet. So it's just too long. It's like muddled and it's like too much action, which is like maybe a weird criticism to have for an indie movie, but it's just like constant fighting. I realize this is
That's
the
great.
same.
Which
This
is
is
still an audience is going to be there, and I think that's
Yeah,
exactly why it's a
I-
gateway drug. There,
I'm realizing as I'm saying it, this is what I was saying to Justin and Pete, and they were giving the same reaction of like, "Yeah, that sounds good," and I'm
Good,
like,
yeah.
"No, you don't understand."
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like until you watch it, I think you'll understand. Like, oh, yeah, this should have been 10 minutes long, probably. This is
Yeah,
not
well,
like
I
an
mean,
80-minute movie.
How many movies do we all watch where we say that and still continue to watch them anyway? So I wouldn't really put that on it.
I mean,
Just
yeah, I'm
put it
realizing
out
this
there.
is probably the wrong crowd to be trying to sell that logic to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we
because-
watch bad movies to torture ourselves, so it doesn't matter.
Usually, I make Morgan watch the bad movies to
That's true, he
torture
does.
him, and I kind of get off on watching that effect. So it's a perversion of some sort. But I saw
mean,
I
we
was
all
reading
have.
yeah, I was reading a review last night of a movie that is dear to me, and it is the which I bring up all the time on everything, the epically bad Blood Fart Lake, which no one in their right mind should naturally like that. But I was like, oh, this person wrote like a huge review. I'm going to start reading it. And then a quarter of the way in, it said, I enjoyed it, but the comedy is very bad. The acting is very bad. I'm like, yeah, we know. And this is because, and I'm like, oh no. And that is because they're just doing it to make themselves laugh. And we have to find that funny because they're funny people. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to read anymore because we're not going to think the same. I get that is a thing, but there is just an enjoyment of finding even professional comedians who will do something for themselves, and this like just this thrill of them taking a chance and throwing it out on people, which is now that you're working with bigger budgets. I remember when you were making The Void, you were extremely nervous and very humble, and my first reaction was like, wow, he's such a humble person. And I'm like, oh no, he's actually legitimately very nervous about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I have not, my confidence is not really built over like the past 20 years of making movies. I'm still like stressed and self-conscious about everything that I do. Yeah. But it's offset by the fact that like I'm still just so obsessed with making things. Like the passion overrides any kind of logic my brain is trying to convince me of.
Yeah, but the stress
have to do it.
The stress is what keeps you going, right? Like that's actually a good thing. Is to be stressed and worried about its quality means that you're going to put more effort into it anyways.
Well, yeah, that's what I tell myself is that like being self-conscious and like wanting to make the best thing possible is a good trait to have, and being self-critical as well, because I think there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of like there's a certain level of genre cinema where people are like good enough, and it's like
well,
I don't know.
Are you taking notes, Adam?
Oh yeah, no, I mean
Okay,
that's
good.
been me for forever. I've always been 2 shots in. You guys are looking tired. Let's just go home.
Well, but there is a reality too to like whatever you're making, and that's something I try to be conscious of. Is like, while I do want things to be perfect, like there is always a point where you have to be a human being, and you have to be like, we're out in the cold, like everyone's suffering. Am I gonna die on this hill of like trying to get this one shot exactly the way I want it to be and like kill half my cast and crew? Like at a certain point, you have to know when to say like think big picture and say like that's enough. Like, and it's something I find I observe in other filmmakers is like they get so fixated on making one little thing perfect that the big picture suffers. And so it really is just a balancing act of like knowing where to put your energy, where to put all your effort, then being realistic about the thing that you're making. So,
but also sadly, like for the people who do the films that I get here in Terriblefest, and for myself, it's a different world to when you're just doing this for yourself and saying, hey, let's, throw things on a wall and see what sticks, as opposed to when you're working with someone else's money. Then all of a sudden, as much as you're doing the artist part, you're doing the fun part, you want everyone to be happy, then all of a sudden you do have to be a boss, and it can suck to have
that's true. Is like there is a like a job component to it. Like it is art and commerce combined. So like at a certain point, like, you're being paid to do a job, and just because you're passionate about your art doesn't mean you don't have to deliver on time, on schedule, like on budget, So I feel like some people lose sight of that, but ultimately like it is just a transaction. You're being handed this amount of money to give them a movie. And if you don't deliver that, then you failed. Doesn't matter how obsessed you are with making it perfect. Like not delivering that final product is like the ultimate failure.
Yeah, the financiers at the end of the day don't give a shit about the quality of what you think you're trying to make. They just want a product,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Which can be those moments where you find it a loss and disheartening at point for you do still. That's again when then you have to go back again. You have to say, as long as I put some of my art in this, because when I go to the person who's financing this, they're not going to be saying to you, well, how did you feel about it? That's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think it's a fun game to like be put in those work for hire positions, like the jobs that artier filmmakers turn their noses up at. But I don't know, I kind of like the idea of being thrown into something like a no-win situation, like a Leprechaun movie without a Warwick Davis, and just being forced to like make something out of this. Like, I don't know, for me, my brain kind of turns on in that situation, because I'm like, all right, like I'm in the worst case scenario for this. How do I turn this into something fun, something that I would enjoy? And I think there is something to be said for like the art of making a situation like that work and making something palatable. So
since it is almost that time of year for St. Patrick's Day, where I will be putting on Leprechaun 4 at some point. It just has to happen. It's a rule in my household that around that time it has to play. But Morgan, have you seen Leprechaun or Returns?
I actually have not.
You haven't seen it? No. I actually really like it because it sort of returns to a more simpler kind of a horror form. It's still like a Junior Wishmaster.
Yes, that's a good way of summing it up.
But it everybody who really loves the Back to the Hood, and it's because it's a funny title. If you watch Back to the Hood more than twice, you're like, okay, I'm good. Like, how many times do I need to see Warwick Davis smoke a bong? Like, all right, we get it. And then rap, which is it's great in its own, but there's a much more solidness to it, especially because you made it like in a sort of official sequel to the first movie. But am I only remembering rumor, or was this a fact that you were out in a studio in like Africa?
Yes. Okay. So when I got hired on the show, I was told that we were shooting in Hamilton. And so I was like,
what awesome. A difference.
Yeah, it was like, awesome. It's close to home. Like, Like, I don't know, I can like use a Toronto shop, I can use Toronto crews, like especially the whole reason I took the job was I needed money. And so I was like, this seems like I don't want to say low effort, but it just seems like as a job, like as a director, a directing job, this made sense. And so
Yeah.
it worked for my life at the time. And so that's part of why I took it on. And then after I like signed the contract, suddenly it turned into, oh, we're actually going to go shoot in South Africa. What do you think of that? And I mean,
it's
that all
totally
came
going to
about.
be small town America. It's going to look exactly the same.
This is what's stupid is like in the original movie, it's supposed to be North Dakota, I believe, but shot in Southern California as North Dakota.
Yeah.
So our movie in South Africa is Cape Town as Southern California as North Dakota, like was the look that they were trying to match. So
you
like
really did relive shots from the first movie where it looked like the same old location and things like that. It pulled off, which that's kudos to you and your crew to pull that
I
off.
mean, that's because we had to VFX out like beautiful mountain vistas in the background. Like I remember the Sci-Fi Channel producers being like, "Oh, North Dakota wouldn't have mountains like that. You have to get rid of that." And it's like we have this nice epic like crane shot like coming down on this gas station as a bus pulls away. It's like probably one of the biggest shots I've ever had. But then in the background they had to like smudge out the nice mountains because
there's like one guy on the internet who's going to call you on that. Nobody else would. Just this one guy, and he's going to flame war on some page for forever. And that's why the studio reps are like, we're afraid of that one guy. Don't just get rid of it. Like, move it out.
Yeah, because that would be that one guy's big issue is the mountain range in the background.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would have complained, so maybe it is a good thing I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, well then I'm glad we spent the I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for taking that. Yeah.
or something to paint that out. Yeah.
I mean, you got to spend some time in Cape Town. That's pretty cool. I went there for my honeymoon, so I've been there. It's
really?
an awesome city. So
yeah, I mean, it's
awesome
cool for a vacation for sure. And I mean, the cruise were awesome.
Maybe not for working.
I really thought our DOP Trevor was great. Like, I don't know, I just got along with everybody really well, and it was like it was a real trial by fire for me as a filmmaker because up to that point, everything I'd done, I'd kind of worked in familiar circles to an extent. Like, even though the Void was bigger, it was like still using people I knew. Whereas this, it was like me and then Nickel and Graham, like my two prosthetics artists that I brought from Toronto to apply the leprechaun makeup. But then otherwise, everybody was all local to Cape Town or Johannesburg. So, yeah, it was like new, like other side of the planet, totally new setting, new crews, new everything. Like the situation was so foreign to me. But yeah, I think it was just generally good for my skills as a director to have to like work with a new team and just like. Yeah, not like fall back on familiarity in any way, like just having to straight up do the job out in a completely foreign.
I think that is the difference between being, I'm not using the right word by saying an artist to a professional, but to that level of where one is a job, and it's a job you're going to have to come across again when you're going to want that money, because then how else are you going to finance your next project?
Well, that's the thing is like if I didn't do Leprechaun, like I wouldn't have had kind of the financial cushion to do Psycho Gorman. So it's like I kind of needed one to feed the other. And so I'm totally okay with that. Like I love director for hire jobs because like I was saying, I like the challenge of being handed a thing where the producers are like, what can you do with this? And it's like, I'll figure something out. I don't know. It's just kind of fun. And again, it's like good learning experience for me, a good way to like just hone my skills and not like be attached to the material, but in a different way. Like it's like mentally I approach it differently than if it's something that just came out of my brain. It's like I roll with punches a little differently on my own stuff and it's way more malleable. Whereas I feel like stuff like, even like with Leprechaun, it's like an established IP to a certain extent. So I want to, there's like expectations and things you want to maintain. So I don't know. I just find it entertaining.
At this point, I'm going to cut right into a photo of of you with the actor from your Leprechaun film looking at that Fangoria magazine.
Oh,
Such a
yeah.
great photo.
Oh, I had to like stop shooting to make sure we got that photo because I was like, I have to do this. This is like such a classic, like 80s genre director move to do.
And to randomly have the Fangoria magazine. Yeah, even when Justin and I first did Personal Space Invader, that was the joke of like, when do we have someone holding onto a Fangoria magazine? Like, what's the point? Just a rule. We got to do it for our first thing.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could integrate that into my movies more, like the Fango in the trunk of Ash's car.
Yeah.
In darkness. But what bummed me out was that I realized as I was doing that, like, I don't think Leprechaun was ever on the cover of Fango.
Oh, probably not.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
I
that
feel
seems
like
odd that it wouldn't be.
a franchise that big
Yeah.
is like, you know, I feel pretty
Well,
worthy of Fango.
If not that big with that many sequels, at least anyway. Before we go and look into some of the clips again, I was thinking of, well, we're still on the subject of, you know, going to independent to studio to independent and so forth. Just a couple of months ago, saw the premiere of Blood in the Snow for Scared Shitless. And at the time going into that, I didn't know you had anything to do with that. And of course, the credits come up and your name comes up there and everyone's talking about you during the Q&A afterwards, since you weren't there at that point. And it just put this thought in my head. It's like, is Steve the only guy in Canada with enough like latex and that around here to make these kind of effects? Is that you're everywhere. You keep like, even the stuff that you'll post about of your own projects, again, be it to finance, but I mean, the budget on Scared Shitless was pretty small. So you were really just, you know, doing this for the want to do that, I guess.
I mean, like Lewis, Brandon, and Viv, who eventually came on, who directed the project, like they were just so passionate about this thing. I just felt like there was like an instant connection there of like, I just want to help these guys as best as I can. Like, yeah, it was super low budge. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, that's like one of those things I feel like somebody in my position has to do that. I have to help out these guys with their toilet monster movie, because
you got to explode a toilet, have like a lifted up fake bathroom, and do the semi kind of do the Johnny Depp bed scene, but for an old lady in the toilet. I
mean, I will say that like I suffered probably the hardest on that movie out of anyone on the crew. Like that's like I ended up in the hospital at one point.
What? Jeez.
Yeah. Stunt went to Ryan. I got kicked in the face, so got like a fractured nose from it. But again, it's like could happen on anything.
But then you got to goop up and rip out the guts of one of the kids in the hall.
That is true. Yeah, working with Mark McKinney was great. Like, I don't know, it was just like it was a fun team. Christopher Mins, who edited Leprechaun Returns, edited Scared Shitless as well. Actually, like, yeah, I brought in a bunch of like my people for it. So yeah, Viv came on board.
That's honorable stuff.
Mike Hamilton, who does physical effects on a lot of my stuff. He came out and did all the like atmosphere and things for the movies. So yeah, it just kind of turned into a hangout of people I know. So yeah, it was a good time. I feel real stupid for saying this, but I still haven't watched the finished movie. I should probably get on that at some point. I mean, it's been a little.
You were trying to wrap up your most recent project of Deathstalker.
Well, what happened was like we shot Scared Shitless while I was doing post on Frankie, and then prepping for Deathstalker. So it was like
when Deathstalker was finally being shown, when it was hitting the festivals, you were again back at work.
Yeah, Scared Shitless, or Frankie was doing festivals. Was it last fall? Yeah. I mean, so much has happened in like the past year and a bit that I'm just trying to like map it out in my head right now. But yeah, Frankie basically rolled right into Deathstalker, and I'm still in the thick of Deathstalker right now, doing post for it. I have a VFX chat, and I don't know if you guys use the app Slack, but I've got that open, and I'm being pounded with VFX questions right now that I'll have to get to at some point. But yeah.
Well, we won't keep you much longer. We're gonna now pound you with video clips just to get
I'll
your
take
reactions of this. This is the only trailer that's just for a short film. We're playing this at the Witch Bar on the 25th, and it is now, as of today, is available on the online service for. I always say it wrong. It's I want to say Cabane de Sang, which is a Montreal competition plus film festival. They do like a 24-hour film project
Blood
competition, and they but they are. And they just picked up this film too, which is from Finland. And it wasn't until I was looking at it the other day, I was like, oh yeah, it's actually in English, which shows how much attention I've paid to half the films I've said yes to. I watched like 2 seconds. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. That's good. Let's use that one. Let's just take this one and go, oh, no, this one's not right. That's what happens when you're looking through 3,000 videos and you're a one-man project. Last year, I attempted to make Morgan watch 1 or 2 of the films for Terriblefest, and I sent him specifically just the dirty ones, and he knew it was crap, so he wouldn't do it.
You sent me the one about the old man drinking his own pee.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is the game we're gonna play. Like, you never know what's gonna get sent to us. If it's a cheap festival, people will send stuff out. However, this film called Return of the Shitters is everything I wanted it to be. It's the film itself is only 13 minutes long. This trailer is only 30 seconds, and hopefully it gives you an idea of what it's about.
So before we dive into it, what am I doing here? I'm watching it.
I'm just gonna watch it, and we're just gonna see your view of it. That's all.
Okay, we'll just we discuss after. I'm not like doing America's Funniest Home Video voices over.
That's fine too if you want. You do what you want.
No, that's too much pressure now.
Okay.
Adjust to that. I'll just silently watch it.
Right.
Okay. All right, here we go.
That is fine.
By the year 2027, the shitters have conquered the earth.
All you need to know.
Humankind has one hope.
Feels about right.
The shitters are determined to stop her.
Aw, they're little shits.
Yeah. That's why I said yes to it. All you needed to know from that trailer
is just the little shits.
They're tiny little shits attacking people in a post-apocalyptic world. One female warrior to stop the invasion of the shitters.
I love it. That looks great.
It's got puppets, so I'm sold. That means a level of effort that warrants my attention, I think. So
it's also definitely in that time period back when you made Manborg, when you probably inspired it for a lot of people, but it was definitely this thinking of the soundtrack and the sort of the
vaporwave sound.
And the sort of self-aware superimposedness to it, where they're like, okay, I can only do so much, so now let's make it a gimmick. And this is like 1980s revival that didn't really exist.
Yeah, well, that was something, I don't know, that always kind of bugged me in the I hesitate to say post-Manborg world, but like, you know what I mean, like just kind of that era that you're describing, where suddenly everybody's like making up this idea of what the 80s is, and I fully admit that like with Manborg, it's really that like it's more early 90s that feels like it's 80s a little bit, like, you know, kind of like that movie Abraxas with Jesse Ventura, which feels like it's from 1981, but it's 1991, I believe. It's like that weird phenomenon. But yeah, I don't know, I find there was like a wave of stuff where it was like people were just kind of making up what was in the 80s, and it's like, did it actually have dinosaurs and
every movie? Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. It was kind of a weird time, that era. Some good stuff came out of it for sure.
I mean, after Manborg, we did get Turbo Kid, and I'm a pretty big fan of that one. But a lot of people did say like this probably wouldn't have happened quite in this aesthetic if Manborg didn't happen. So I mean, pat yourself on the back for the RKSS guys as well, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure they made more money than I did. So.
I mean, that's usually how that one goes.
Yeah, usually. But I mean, thankfully, Manborg didn't cost anything.
So right. Yeah,
I feel just 3 years of my time.
I remember I saw Manborg here in Toronto at, I think you may have been there, and I'm not 100% sure, but you may have done a Q&A. It was at the Girard Theater, right by Girard Square on the east end of the city, which is no longer open anymore. It like was open for a very short period of time. And they were showing Manborg, and I feel like afterwards they might have shown Father's Day. And there was a Q&A, and then somebody was talking about you had borrowed or bought a cheap car that you were able to blow up. And I can't remember which movie this was from, but
that would have been
Father's Day. Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure because I know I saw both of them that night. I just couldn't place it. But
That's
during
the
the
only time
Q&A, somebody said something along the lines, "We just bought this cheap car and we were in a field and we blew it up." And this old man in the back of the theater got up and he was like, "You fucking stupid kids," and then just walked out. I was like, what? Like
I don't remember that.
I don't remember
that. There was like there was no context. He was just so dismayed that you had done this for I don't know why, or maybe he was dismayed at something else. But he he got up, he yelled, and then just walked out, and everybody was like, "What the fuck was that all
What's
about?"
with old men at our Father's Day screenings? Like that just made me think of. We did a screening in New York of Father's Day. It was I guess it was the New York premiere, and this like old man was sitting at the front of the theater, looked like he was like 80 something years old, and
that was a lovely film about positive fatherhood.
Yeah,
but okay, so we're up there doing the Q&A. This old man's sitting there, and like kind of like slumped down in his chair. I get past the mic. Of course, it's happening when I'm answering the one question I get asked about prosthetics. I start talking, and the old man stands up, and his like pants are around his ankles, and he just like slowly pulls his pants back up, and then sits back down. And I'm like trailing off as I'm answering this question.
He's just a distraction
because we're all
moment.
Yeah, we're all fixated on this old man.
Oh my god, that's really good.
Yeah,
that's a much better old man story than my old man story.
Well, yours is just confusing to me.
It was really confusing. Everybody was like, "What? Like, what?"
I want to start doing that now.
You stupid fucking kids.
Yeah, when there's like an answer I don't like, I just yell.
And maybe you just meant like the whole night in general. Maybe you meant the theater. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know what but I think it was just like you had done it without any like permits or whatever, like there was no legality to it, and he couldn't abide that thought, so he just like, had to yell at you.
What was he like, the mayor? Like what was this?
I don't know, it was very odd, and it wasn't a huge crowd or anything, so like he was all by himself in the back. And
the one where was it Kelly Michael Stewart maybe was the host?
Maybe that could be it.
He was doing one or two things.
Yeah, I could see that.
Even Justin hosted one or two things back there.
Anyway.
That the place was fun for about 5 minutes, but then we just sort of realized it smelled really bad.
It sure did.
I only vaguely remember it. I think that was the only time I was there, was for that screening. That was it.
Well,
ironically, I saw Turbo Kid there, and they got the star to come in for that. But I mean, yay for local Canada. But then again, I did also see Brett Kelly's Ouija shark there as well. So I mean, they were willing to play anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that started a whole relationship with a bunch of people. Now, the amount of people I met at that screening, and we all bonded that night. That was actually a great time, because who else is going to do stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, who else is going to screen Ouija shark?
Yeah, and so anyone who survived it, we were all buddies from then on.
Went through war together.
Yeah, I mean, I became pretty good friends with the star of the film after that. He was there, and we chatted for forever. And we've even done projects together since then. So I mean, it's a great thing that's the wonder. What I love of what I've done for Terriblefest is if I try to get at least one of the features released by somebody, if it's somebody small like Wild Eye or especially the foreign guys, because they don't know any of those people, and I hook them up with those people. And then if I don't do that, at least one of the film people meets another one of them, and then I find the next year the two of them have done a project together, and that makes it all worth it. Like anything else is difficulty. That's such a cool thing that we can just, when you are in that group, as you said, keeping your friends with you and paying it forward to somebody else, or just having Pierce show up wherever you are at some point.
Yeah, just always a Pierce. lurking in the shadows. But
as we started talking about that Halloween night, I can remember his Halloween costume from that party. He showed up really late as Agent Cooper, and he just brought his date, and he wrapped his date in cellophane. And I was like, that is the coolest costume. And I don't remember who that girl was, and I don't know if we ever saw her.
Wow.
Yeah. She's been missing since that.
I'll send a message to Piers later asking, whatever happened to her?
What happened to cellophane?
Just be like, I'm reopening this cold case.
Oh God, Fire Walk with Me. It was Pierce all along.
Yeah. Didn't you know?
Oh, damn. Anyway, he'll love that. For anyone else listening who going, who the fuck is Pierce? But look him up. He's got an IMDb. He's done lots of stuff now.
If you don't know Pierce, you're nobody.
You're nobody. Yeah.
That's it. Tell our audience that they're nobodies. Yeah. I love it.
Yep.
Pierce has one line in my first film. He just shouts from off screen, "Spring break, motherfuckers." We gave him a credit for it.
I mean, that's a quality line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect Pierce cameo.
Yeah, wonderful. So let's move on to the next one. The two I sent you.
Spirit Riser.
But I think we'll save Spirit Riser for the next. Let's do Air Fryer Slaughter. These two trailers I've played here for other people before. It's weird that these two trailers are both 2.5 minutes long, which I've like, that should tell too much about an independent film. That's only an hour and 30 minutes max.
That's a lot of trailer.
Right. But both of these trailers, honestly, I don't think they give away the idea. Well, maybe Air Fryer Slaughter does. It doesn't have a whole lot of plot. So let's go with that one first.
Okay.
But I don't think it spoils anything. There's lots in there. This kid, Mark Michael Hunter, he makes, like, he's early 20s, but in the last like 7 years, he made like a feature every year in like 5 shorts. He just doesn't.
Well, howdy, all you cowboys and cowgirls.
I love it already.
To the Cowboy Jim Show. Let me bring in my special little buddy.
That Cowboy Who.
Say hi, Benny.
The weird Ottawa.
Is
a great show today.
Is this actually shot on VHS or something?
I think he has for part of it. He does have one that he showed that he has done stuff on.
It's called Air Fryer.
Not all of the stuff is that way. So I think sort of back and forth because these are like people watching this show, and so it messes around with its quality. I call him kid. He's a kid to me, but this young filmmaker, he plays around with stuff, and that's what makes it interesting.
That's cool.
It's gonna make me rich.
Oh yeah, now that's an air fryer. Ooh,
I give an A+ to that delivery.
Beautiful thing I've ever seen.
From the maker of Stoner Snakes.
Coming home with me.
We've been neat, sweet. We've got a brand new air fryer, baby.
So I found it.
Someone off camera going.
Had to turn off some ketchup and
or
such.
Maybe she was just really excited about the air fryer.
Maybe.
Give me a drum roll while I go grab it.
Oh, so it didn't mean me.
I got us a badass air fryer.
The latest drum roll.
Giddy up, cowboy. Your ass is mine.
Air fryer. You said air fryer. Just go with it.
Oh. I knew there was dangers to using air fryers.
Soon they bite your nipples off.
You look a little melted. Got to know.
Perfect.
What a snack. Somebody's getting excited.
What the fuck, man? My nipple!
Oh, there, I knew he'd bit a nipple off. There we go.
I see all you dirty birdies watching from home.
What's your dirty birdies?
Nice.
Air Fryer Slaughter. See you soon.
That looks amazing.
I believe he played that at Cinema Wasteland, and people were like, funniest thing they'd seen there that year. So, I mean, I hope the audience, that's what's actually going to close Terriblefest this month. So I think people will get a kick out of it. We did play a short of his last week. He's the same guy, Morgan, who made the pool toy shark frenzy, where he got
with Lloyd Kaufman
over the phone to voice this toy that these kids chase each other around in a pool with. He just got like his two nieces to like attack each other with a toy in a pool, and it still went on for 17 minutes.
Yeah, it was something.
that was a gift to the family, that one. But I felt I needed to share that to people pre the event.
he's passionate.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that. Big props to that for being passionate and prolific. Goes a long way.
He's not going to stop. That guy's going to be making movies for forever. And I love when I find a young filmmaker who just, no matter what his limitations are, no matter what he cares, it's like, hey, I'm 23 and I've made like 200 films. You want to watch one of them? And I'm like, I can't say no to one of them. But then the next thing you know, it's 20 movies in and I'm dead. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the spirit.
Big credit to him.
Yeah.
I love it when people can commit and do the work. Like, even at super low budget levels, like, it is grueling hard work. So good for him.
And I think if it wasn't like a shot on video done with your friends thing, someone would go in there going, oh, this is dumb. When because I mean, obviously it is, but if it was like someone was releasing that, I don't know, either of you ever see Slacks?
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it though. The Killer Pants.
Yeah.
No, I haven't yet.
I think I really like it, but I think it's very off-putting to people because it actually looks really slick, and then you realize that it's about Killer Pants, right? And it's so I think people, when it actually gets down to what's supposed to happen, there is a metaphor in it. It is more than that technically, but I think once you start seeing pants killing people, if you're not already into that, you're turned right off because you're like, you feel like you've been tricked. But it's for anyone else out there who has thought twice about it but has ever listened to any of my advice, that means you're slightly open to it. Do check out Slacks. But let's get down to the last trailer. This is the movie that's the prime time on Saturday night. That's the only one we're selling like real advance tickets to. It's got a lot of cameos in it. This again is a 2.5 minute trailer, but you will have no idea what the movie's about even after the 2.5 minutes, which I've watched the movie. It came out now by Vinegar Syndrome. I have the Blu-ray with the extra features, and I'm still not 100% sure what I watched, which is why I think people will get a kick out of it. And I would love to see an audience reaction. This is Spirit Riser. Dylan, the director, is a real artist. And I hope to see more and more from them. And you're going to too. They're already working on 20. They're a music video director, so they're already working on 27 projects at the same time. So let's check it out with the voice of Michael Madsen as God.
Cool.
That's what their budget
shall find itself alone.
Cindy, they're coming!
That is Michael Madsen.
Run!
This also has a cameo by Lloyd Kaufman.
The spirits
well, that
of the
title
dead
card
who stood in life before me are again in death around me.
What the hell is your problem?
What kind of freaky stuff have you gotten me into?
Nothing!
They all will return to me.
Basically, they just said, let's use every form of like animation we can, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, really.
Every medium happening at once.
Spirit Riser is a
We
banger.
know she isn't dead.
You will not leave this circle. We demand that you speak to us about your intentions.
And the radioactive chicken heads.
And a giant carrot, too.
They're a great band. I'm a big fan of them.
With light, like hope to mortals given.
I will be the last spirit
There he is.
It's probably past your bedtime.
Past your bedtime.
You will have acid available during the screening, right?
We'll have acid available?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
good.
feels like
Yeah.
it needs it.
Yeah. Well, at least we gave him more packets of nerds, as I do every time, Pop Rocket. So I get high off sugar, if not that. But feel free to everyone bring their own acid. I'm totally open for that.
The supernatural came to Earth one day and left another, all in the form of a young girl.
This
Some
cast
knew
is
her
never
as
ending.
No, I think that's why the trailer's so
Spirit
long.
Riser.
He decides to give everyone their credit.
Oh, Data.
And it just still keeps going. All these different cameos, which I mean, so many films pre and post COVID have done that. We got 5 seconds with all these celebrities at a convention. Let's do 5 seconds in there. But it flows and it fits in this, which is because it's all weird, so you're okay with it. As opposed to, every time Eric Roberts shows up for 2 seconds in someone's film, and you're like, he is in the hallway from the signing booth of the convention center.
I gotta get Eric Roberts in something. That guy's so
100%.
good. I loved his appearance in the On Cinema Oscar special. It was really good to see him in there joking around.
Which is great to see that he is a little self-aware of what he has become, but I mean, I don't think he's 100% self-aware.
Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah, Connor and I were talking about that. Was he in on the joke completely or not?
Yeah,
kind of hard to tell, but his deliveries were spot on. I thought
he's not as in on it as like Joe Estevez is. Joe Estevez has long ago given up hope and knows exactly what he is. But I recommend to stay on Eric Roberts for the moment. I recently watched a movie called Devil's Night, but with a K. So it's almost like Demon Knight. It's obviously a movie made by a bunch of like LARPers but they live in California, obviously, or they filmed it there, just out in the woods. And so they've got these very predictable costumes that they're all Dungeons and Dragons people. But they got Eric Roberts, and Kevin Sorbo, and then Baldwin, and William Baldwin, and Angie Everhart. Trying to speak in a fake accent, so she keeps saying everyone's swords. Must put your swords down.
Sweet.
But we get them all in one scene.
Love it.
Sorbo's actually like almost half decent in it for what he's become these days. But there's specifically one scene, and they're all in period costumes, and there you get all 5 of the cameo guys at once. So you can't spread them out through the movie that much because they weren't going to stick around. But at least they got them into some fake castle, put them in costumes, and Eric Roberts is kind of in the back the whole time, and he's smiling for nothing the whole time because he's like, what is going on?
I mean, that's kind of what he's doing during the Oscar special. He's kind of just sitting there with a smile on his face, just happy to be out of the house, I guess. I don't know.
Sorbo's trying to like be serious, and he's trying to sell it, and then Eric Roberts is looking at him like, and you're like, is that the character or is that Eric Roberts doing that? I can't tell. But it's worth seeing. They have both a prosthetic costume monster and a CGI gargoyle that fight at one point. That makes it all worthwhile.
And what's it called?
It's called Devil's Night.
Devil's Night.
Yeah, right. Tonight. Yeah, it was just made last year. It's on Tubi already. It's
you don't say.
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's exactly where it should be though. But there have been so many, especially Kevin Sorbo films, where I'm like, I'm gonna watch this ironically, and I can't do it. I'm like, but I was pleased all the way through, and I was very shocked by that. I thought I was gonna start hating it 10 minutes in, but then it kept pulling out new things, and I'm like, God, I hope one of the people in this film gets something out of this. Somebody's got it.
I might give this one a shot. This sounds like it's checking all the boxes I need.
It's
Tubi watch.
Exactly. It's still that though. So you're keeping yourself on par there. So before we let you go, I've been doing weird things with cards constantly because I buddy up with Trading Cards, their YouTube page with Mr. Milo there. So it got me into the mode of wanting to buy retro cards. But I got something that I'm going to give away at Terriblefest. I'm going to give away a bunch of these packs of this terrible set of cards. And I think this really suits with, after talking about Scared Shitless and the effect of the being eaten through a toilet, ordering from Japan Skibbity toilet cards. The thing that I am too old to understand the concept of the meme
I just don't get it.
Yeah, this is a bit that like I've been told about.
Yeah,
and it kind of freaks me out that that's a thing.
And there's this running gag now that they're supposed to make a big budget movie in America about it. This is like,
really?
Zack Snyder was going to fund somebody to make it or something.
Of course he was. Good old Zack.
To be fair though, is Skibbity Toilet that much different from like the G.I. Joe PSAs?
Right. I mean,
like
kind of
in terms of like quotable nonsense, like
okay,
it's gibberish and weird imagery.
I don't know.
I'd
So, I
much
mean,
rather
none of
say
it makes
pork chop
sense, but I'm going
sandwiches
to
than-
open up one. Last time when we had Josh from Lunch Meat on last week, I opened up a Power Rangers card because we were talking about Pogs, and I realized there's something felt like a Pog inside the card
And it was a
pack.
Pog.
And it was, yeah.
Whoa.
Megazord Super Slammer. So
It was a good day.
I've actually got a pack of Spawn Pugs
What?
that I got not that long ago. Pretty jazzed about that. So yeah, still buying Pog.
One day, Jamie Foxx and Tom McFarlane are going to make that movie. They've been threatening it.
That movie that like supposedly was going to shoot in Toronto at one point, which I was pretty jazzed about. But
Then a lot happened to Jamie Foxx since then. So I
yeah,
think that's a big change for him.
just bring Michael J. White back.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, he was in Toronto filming his recent one. What did they change that title to? It was originally Sunset Superman, but then it changed
Was
to
it
Don't Hassle
like,
Grandma or something.
Yeah, don't piss off Grandma. Or
Yeah,
something.
it's pretty
Don't
funny.
Something Grandma.
Yeah.
It looked like it would be fun.
So these don't make any sense to me, and I don't even show all these, but they're all slightly holographic.
Oh,
So
that's
they're all
cool.
like
It's a dude in a
reticular and
toilet.
shiny, but it's an old man's head in a toilet. I'm sure, okay. It's a calculator and TV.
So this segment of the pod, this is like you're. Doing
I just
like
opened
a,
something stupid, and we. Just
Oh, I
go
thought you were
live.
going to do like a tarot reading, but with those Japanese Scooby toilets.
I have
like
done
that
that
idea.
I did at one of the last markets we did at Eyesore. I dressed as a kangaroo and had a sign on me that said "Psychic Kangaroo," and I would either read from a crystal ball or I would take a pack of old '80s cards randomly and put them on there and make up your tarot with it. So I have done that.
Okay.
So
well,
I'm
I
good
think
then.
you should do that right now.
All right, that's what we're gonna do then. I'm putting these away. We're gonna shuffle the desk with Satan on our side. He will decide what is the skivvy toilet for us. The first one is gonna be for you, Morgan. Whatever this card is,
I
this
don't
is
want
your history. It's very blurry. I can't tell much of what it is. It looks like a guy from Severance.
Is that
TV show? But he's got a.
Is that a man with a security camera?
Yeah, it's a man with a security camera.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Of
And on the
all the
back,
cards you could have picked, that would be a
camera.
good representation for me. That's probably
Yeah,
the best version.
You working again back for Vice TV, but you got to just film people doing dirty things in the bathroom. That was a show you edited once, right? Vice TV's Dirty Things in the Bathroom.
Yes, yeah. That was a big successful show.
Big success for that. Yeah, right. All right, so then we'll shuffle again, and this will be for Steve. What is Steve's future will be? Oh, old man in the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm halfway there. Maybe over halfway. I don't know.
You're over halfway to the
see.
toilet, or over
I mean,
halfway to being old?
Both. I don't know. I've inhaled a lot of chemicals in my prosthetics career, so I feel like my lifespan is short significantly. So
Well, we can all leave and go to the bathroom now because here's all three of us for the toilet.
Sweet.
So I think we've decided
we can all go take a skibbity in the toilet together.
Oh,
Is
which
that what
funny,
it
'cause
is?
The next
I don't know.
packs I have a G.I. Joe card pack. I could open that instead, but someone's getting that.
man.
At Terriblefest. Yeah,
I
no
think
G.I.
that
Joe
would've
for
been
tonight,
better.
folks. Yeah, maybe tune in next week, folks. You'll see what's on the G.I. Joe cards. Will we have a sci-fi and Sergeant Slaughter or Serpentor in there? Who knows?
Yeah.
What you guys need, send this out to the marketing crew. This will guarantee success. Retro cards for Deathstalker. That's all I got to say.
Hey, look, I am all. Everyone knows at this point I'm on board any kind of marketing gimmick for my projects. I will fully George Lucas out all of my properties. So yeah, I would love to have trading cards and action figures in a board game and
I mean, you've got them for Psycho Gorman, so I mean, those are pretty sweet.
That's true.
You got one of them up here in the shop. So, my favorite thing of the gimmick of that to leave, and I will leave on this image, and I will just flash it on there afterwards, is the alternative cover for the one collector's edition of Psycho Gorman, which is the reason I needed it over the other, was because you had a secondary cover that's homaging Sinbad's house guest, was it?
Yes. Well, to me, that's the key poster for the movie. Like, probably no disrespect to all the great art we've gotten, but like that was the poster that I commissioned because I was like, this sums up the movie the best.
It was also with Phil Hartman, right? Because
yes,
it's
Phil
basically
Hartman.
Jingle All the Way without Arnold.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, the image of PG's head poking out of a mailbox and then having a dog on the cover that's not in the movie. I was like, yeah, this is my sensibilities pretty much exclusively.
Sells itself.
Yeah.
We'll cross paths again. I'll see you at some event where you're hopefully not dying in a costume, and Pierce has not put someone in cellophane.
I mean, no guarantees on either.
Well, yeah, it's true.
I have to ask though, Morgan, what are you watching on that TV there?
Oh, it's just a bunch of episodes of The Outer Limits. I just put on a random tape to have something going on in the background.
There's always something on the back because Morgan is he constantly buys recorded tapes from people and then he archives them for his site, WOC Archive. So there's always something being digitized in the back, and sometimes it really distracts the fuck out of me.
So, okay, so sorry, we're running along, but I just have to know more details on this. So people bring you their dubbed tapes,
so I collect taped off television tapes. So like I'll show you one here. This is just as an example. What's on this one? Marquita, what the fuck? Oh, The Mask of the Red Death, Mission to Mars, and Norman Rockwell. Seems it was recorded in November of 1988. So I find people's collections and I digitize the content on them, because on taped off TV tapes there's tons of stuff that just doesn't exist anywhere else, and that's what I'm really interested in finding. All of the weird and random, like the interstitials, the weird promos,
the best.
Goofs, the mistakes, every time somebody cuts to the wrong thing on a channel, like I love when that stuff happens. And that's the kind of stuff that never got saved, so that's what I'm doing, is I'm always just digitizing. So this comes from a collection of 1,500-ish tapes that I got from some woman in a storage locker. I guess
we had a big celebration a couple of months ago when he digitized live on our feed the 5,000th tape, and we made an audience full of people in the shop pick which one it was, knowing fine and well they would pick the shitty one.
Yeah, they did.
Funny.
That's awesome.
The tape said Jazz Howie Mandel on it. Right. You would think, doesn't that sound like a great tape? Nope. No, not at all.
No.
It was just like 3/4 of a really esoteric Canadian jazz documentary recorded off of Much Music in the 80s. So it has like old commercials and Much Music stuff on it, which is,
it was like 88 too. So
it was really early. Anyway, that was really cool. And then it was a Howie Mandel HBO stand-up special taped off First Choice Super Channel, which was our version of HBO here back in the day.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a good time, and it was actually a really enjoyable tape for everybody to pick, because it meant that they weren't just watching it. We were all kind of chatting and hanging out. So in the end, it was the perfect tape, but the look on everybody's face was just, it was so good. And I knew what they were picking. I had 4 tapes selected, and one of them was a good tape. The other ones were not. I'll fully admit that. The audience did not pick the good tape, sadly.
Well, we're saying as we streamed that live, imagine the people who are watching that, who are not local, who are like, when's the good part going to happen? And we're all just drunk and partying in the audience.
It's never going to happen.
But we were coming on and riffing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
somebody randomly grabbed the microphone and sang in the middle of the jazz thing. So, all good.
Well, that's an epic task you're taking on, but I love it. I also am fascinated by that kind of lost media, the interstitials, commercials. Like, I was dubbing tapes of my own not that long ago.
Oh, cool.
I've slowly been building up like kind of archival content of all my movies and things. To hopefully be launching a Patreon soon. But what I was doing was going through my tapes, and I found like mixed in with all my footage, I guess I was like recording stuff off TV as well, while also like shooting my own movies. So I was finding like ads for like, it's like Big Shiny Tunes 4, like stuff. It was fun finding stuff like that that's like so specific to like a specific year, where you're like, oh yeah, the whole vibe of this 30 seconds is like just a nostalgia trip in itself.
Definitely.
And so specific. So I really, now I'm like going through my like just other random VHS tapes I have and just digging to find any kind of weird stuff like that, because it's like nothing captures that nostalgia better.
Yeah, totally. Well, if you ever need random old television for any of your movies, like something playing on the back on a screen, let me know. I might have the thing that you're looking for amidst my collection.
Pretty awesome. I will keep you in mind for that.
Please.
Well, he's got it all like AI coded, so we can type in a word and it will search.
Yeah,
through,
I've been using.
tapes
I've been using Premiere, so I've been transcribing all of the tapes. I'm like 20 700 tapes into it because it takes a really long time to transcribe them all. But
Of
now I
course.
can search keywords. So like I have a 4 or 5 hour McDonald's reel of like just every McDonald's commercial that I could find, you know, and stuff like that. And I can just keyword search whatever I want. And, you know, it's not like 100% perfect because it doesn't transcribe them perfectly, but it does a good enough job. I can find lots of things pretty quickly, which is
Well, now
really
I just
cool.
want to watch like 5 hours of McDonald's commercials.
We have an episode on Video Hosers where we watch about an hour worth of trailers
Yeah.
together.
You,
So
you
I mean,
think you want to watch that many McDonald's commercials, but I assure you, you do
Yeah.
not.
right?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you probably tap out after an hour, and you're like,
Yeah,
I
you're
can
like,
only
I-
look at a Big Mac for so long.
Before it loses
Then
all
you get those
meaning.
like heartfelt Ronald, you know, Christmas ones where he
Yeah.
like saves an orphan or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
right in the
real
feels.
heartfelt ones mixed in with the very like cynical like corporate movie tie-in things.
Oh yeah, there's so many of those. Oh man.
where it's just
On top of all that, though, then Morgan also finds randomly, like, because he'll buy a big bulk, like, storage locker from somebody for something, and that's where he got, like, the first 3 years of nonstop of much music on there.
Yeah.
But,
Damn.
yeah, but, what a historical thing.
Yeah, no, I
But
really like
then
that
he'll
one.
randomly find something that's someone's home movies.
Oh
And, like,
yeah.
some of those are the funniest things, and we've been using those
but
on our live
even
shows, too.
that, like,
Oh, yeah, I
I
love
don't know.
that.
I love watching like people's home movies on like family trips,
Yes.
which is like it's a weird thing to say out loud. It sounds very like Francis Dollarhide or whatever the guy from Red Dragon's name is. But yeah, like there's that one guy who went to that like Flintstones land with his family. I don't know. That's a pretty classic YouTube video.
Okay.
It's like kind of a defunct like Flintstones theme park.
Yeah.
And he's
in
like
the-
there with his family, and you can tell the dad behind the camera is so into it, and everyone else is not. And like just that dynamic, that kind of family dynamic, peering
that's-
into people's lives like that is so fun to me.
That stuff is amazing. And the also like just the historical record of the places that are being filmed. 'Cause
Yes,
that was not the intention whatsoever of the person who was filming this stuff. But in some cases, they're capturing places that just they don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
and
that's
they
a
were
really
there
good
and they
point.
filmed it, right? And like there's cool archival footage of places that are
Yeah.
just in people's home movies.
Well, this was something I realized with the movies I was going through was I've got footage of like there's an old mall here in Winnipeg, like down the street from my parents' house that's like been demolished and replaced with the Sobeys and a bunch of boring stuff. But like trying to find it online, like any record, like any visual record of it, just non-existent. But like yeah, buried in old movies, I have clips of like walking through it, like newscasts, like at the mall, or even just filming. Like I think we filmed outside of it for Father's Day at one point. So there's just like just finding bits and pieces so you can kind of piece together the full picture of what a non-existent space was at the time is like really cool and fun to do.
Yeah, and it's amazing that we have some of this footage still available and that it exists still because it is a record of that. And it needs to be saved. And it's weird to me when people throw that stuff out. It's like, why are you throwing out your home movies? Like that just seems like such a terrible thing to get rid of. But
which also
the
for
player
us makes
dies
great
and-
stories for us
Yes.
guessing why. There
Yeah,
was like when you
100%.
get a bunch of them, you're like, okay, who's divorce or death, or did they just not care? It's the classic bit where it says like Tommy's first birthday scratched out and they wrote Halloween premiere
Yes.
clock
Yeah.
on WNRP or whatever.
Oh yeah. I've got a few tapes like that where it's like a wedding or something scratched out, and then I've taped Guyver 2 over top of it.
I love that that's your go-to Guyver 2. Like,
Oh, of course.
which
Oh,
is-
it was like Guyver 2 and Robot Jocks when I was a kid were like the hardest movies to find, so I would have to tape them off of TV if they played. So yeah, I had to go all out. But
And forget that wedding. Who gives a shit about
yeah,
them?
I also
Gotta watch Robot Jocks.
I also wonder that like trying to piece together a situation where it's like, why did they have to get rid of all these tapes? Like how did that just end up at a Valley Village or something? And it's
Yeah.
sadly it does seem like a lot of it is just eventually just people pass away, and where does it go, and why
Probably, yeah.
Yep.
why would the like next generation keep that stuff? Like I don't know. sad, but that's just the reality of it.
Well,
So.
thankfully, there's weirdos like me who will
Yes.
take it. And
For a long time,
I'll
I think we
digitize
didn't
it.
know we were going to lose it, and I think in the last like decade, especially with as talking about the mall situation, that's why there's been so many documentaries on dead malls in
Oh,
America
yeah.
because they're such spectacles of timepieces. And they themselves, to make those documentaries, they would have to find people who had archive pieces to put that in there, because there's all these
Yeah,
shots
of
of all
course.
the mullets and the kids with the hanging out of the arcades, and obviously they didn't make that in thought of the documentary, but somebody filmed it.
Yeah, totally.
And thank God that they did. And I think there's been a real search for that in the last 10 years, because I think we took a lot of that for granted.
Yes, I think the 90s, like 80s into 90s, I think everyone took for granted having the means to document stuff and not doing it, because it wasn't convenient to the insane degree that it is now.
Yeah,
right.
That I just have like a million photos of everything.
Yeah.
Whereas,
right.
But back then, like, yeah, we did have a video camera in the 90s, but like to bust it out and start using it was a bit of a process. So,
or for every 5 people, we knew that one guy who had one.
Yeah, exactly. Or like your digital camera was like a 0.5 megapixel something. It cost $500. Like, yeah, it just wasn't as convenient. So it's tough. But at the time, we didn't think twice about it. But I wish we did.
Yeah. Well, there's still lots of it out there, and I'll keep bringing it in.
You're doing the Lord's work.
I was thinking at one point, I was like, maybe I'll cut a bunch of this, because we did talk about this a lot on our show last week with our guests. But I'm like, no, this really circles around to everything we're talking about, of being from independent film to being just film in general. And so I think it's great that we got to discuss that, which does mean, like our guest last week, when after the show, we sent them our favorite home video, which we refer to solely as the Germans. We will be sending that to you after this too, because we've played the Germans too many times. We're not going to play it.
Nobody needs to watch the Germans again.
But we will send it to you so you see it. It's a vacation video for 3 German accented couples in Hawaii, and as they narrate and try to edit this film to make it look like a film, and the guy behind the camera just sounds like Werner Herzog.
Sweet. He's only interested in women in bikinis,
with his wife beside him. Not so happy.
That guy's got his priorities straight.
Yeah, he knew what he was going to Hawaii for.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited. I look forward to watching this.
I had to write it down somewhere where the timestamp on that said something like 1984.
1993.
93.
It's already come to pass. I think it was like February 3rd, 1993.
Right.
Something
We should have had a Oktoberfest last month in celebration of it.
We should have.
We do often wear Hawaiian shirts when we play it at events. We got a Hawaiian shirt specifically for when we play the Germans, so we feel like we're there. So
Amazing.
So it's become a big part of us, which is why we will send it to you after this.
Very much looking forward to it. It's right up my alley.
From the man who made Psycho Gorman, looking forward to 3 German couples on vacation in Hawaii. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming. Thanks again, Morgan, for helping us out and being here and talking all the trash and analog madness that we talk about. We'll see you all soon. Again, Terriblefest is happening. The Video Store Day event, I call it the Terrible Tuesday. Final one of that is next week. Then it's
what do you get for a toonie?
For a toonie, that night is a movie screening of a film sent to us from England of a bunch of guys who run a home video store that gets raided by the mob. That's a movie called One Night Rental. So that's a 2-night rental, a $2 event. Damn, I can't talk anymore. Tongue tied for saying too many things that start with T.
You did that pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I got into it at that point. I got revved up for that. The rest of it happens. You'll see Spirit Riser and Air Fryer Slaughter on the 29th and the 30th at the last Terriblefest before we change on to new things, or I just start bugging Morgan more to do more video hoser shows. So we'll see you out there, hosers.
I'm good with that. Bye.
We love Audio Video Plus.